Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the crew of Ohm-g. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g. Welcome. Today's topic, parallel dimensions. What are they? Maybe it's an alternate universe running parallel to our own, with different outcomes, all based on the choice that you did not make. Thanks for joining us. You're here with the crew of Ohm-g,
the podcast. Welcome back, guys.
Welcome back, guys. This is Brenda Sue here, and I'm very excited to announce something. I have my cohorts here.
This is Lynn.
This is Aaron.
And Chandra. And Camille.
And the first thing that I want to kick off and say is that this will be our first recorded episode where the sound is finally right. Yay. So if you have been frustrated with the sound, you don't even understand how frustrated I have been. So our people at Sound Advice Strategies, he helped us out and we got everything right as rain. And hopefully our sound is going to be fantastic from now and you'll be able to hear all of us equally. So we're really excited about that. Like, y'all don't even know how happy I was. I was doing like the happy dance.
I bet in a parallel dimension it wasn't even broke.
That's right.
That's right. But in this one, it was.
We appreciate you, Brenda, and the folks at Sound Advice for working through the issue because...
An issue it was.
Yes, there's a lot of things that each of us are good at, but technology is not one of any of our strong suits, really. So thank you, Brenda, and the folks at Sound Advice.
Yeah, I just did what I was told, and we finally got it to work. So what is our topic of discussion today? Who wants to kick off this podcast episode?
Well, why is everybody looking at me? This is Lynn.
It's a secret vote. Go for it.
And the whole crew is staring at me.
That's because Lynn had an experience on the way here today.
I did have an experience on the way to Brenda's today.
Prep for this.
You know, I didn't think about that, but probably so. I left my house 10 minutes early to come and record today. And y'all, I was 5 minutes late getting here.
And Lynn is never late.
And there was no traffic.
No, there was no traffic. There was no detour. There was nothing. And Chandra was like, did you get lost? And like, in your mind, and maybe you were going slow. And I was like, I had the cruise control set. And so I have no clue as to why, other than maybe
time slip,
some sort of time slip. But it was really weird because I made sure that I came on time.
Well, and we were, before you got, well, maybe it was after you got here, but we were talking about parallel dimensions and changing timelines. And this week, I also had an experience. Like, I was standing at my sink in my bathroom and one of the tiles was uneven. Well, y'all already know I'm a little OCD. It's like, how have I lived here for 5 years and not noticed this yet? And so, of course, my mind started thinking like, okay, this is it. I've changed timelines. Then I like talked myself out of it because I was like, Chandra, get real. But the next morning, my husband gets up and is turning off the sound machine. And he goes, have you turned this up? And he runs the sound machine, dude. Chandra does not by any means ever.
It's out of the bed.
That's right.
Why would you come over there?
That's right. And so that was like, okay, that's weird. So, but it's funny that several of us this week, knowing we were going to record this today, have kind of like had those experiences that you can't explain.
Yeah.
I had one. Well, I think we've talked about this before, like in text messages and stuff with each other, but do we think about like Deja Vu as an example of like parallel universes or timelines or things like that? Like, I don't know if that's like a jumping off point sort of for the conversation to start, but I had a quote unquote Deja Vu experience where I was like, I have experienced this exact moment before. Like, I was in my kitchen looking out the window while I was doing dishes. Christian was taking care of the dogs and he asked me something and I don't even remember what it was. And it like had some kind of like, I had to think really hard about the answer. And I had that exact feeling, emotion, standing at the kitchen, like all of that had happened before. And I said that to him and he just kind of chuckled, but it's like, I wonder, is that an example of like, we've already lived on that timeline before? Is it, I don't know. It's all just interesting to me. I feel like I don't know enough about it, but.
Yeah. Or have you seen the future?
Yeah. Deja vu is like sometimes Brenda and Carrie and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago, I think, where it's like I get lost. It's like deja vu moments, and they just roll over each other, and it lasts for like 6 hours. And I'm like, I've done it. I've done this before. I've been here. I've seen it. I've heard this conversation. And so I wonder if it isn't almost tapped into your parallel dimensions.
On my For You page, it often does. One of Bashar's videos, Darryl Anka, popped up. And the question to him was, what is deja vu? And I'm going to say their answer. Well, he says what Bashar has said. It's kind of like all timelines are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So perhaps, like maybe in dream time, you were in another place trying to figure out what you were going to do and how this was going to go. And kind of like our contracts, like what we came here to learn, like you go into the astral plane and decide how are you going to react to this so that you can get where your soul knows you want to go. He said, that's one possible answer. The other possible answer is that maybe you got to a certain point in this timeline over here to the left. And then when you switched it, you kind of like rewound just a little bit. And so when you get to that point, you literally have been there before, done that before.
Wow.
Like you decide, okay, I don't want to go down this path. This was the wrong choice. So your soul switches timelines where it hasn't happened yet and continues from there. I couldn't wrap my mind around it either. So I'm just saying
that's super cool to think about.
That's a deep rabbit hole.
You got that right.
I think about this, I don't know if you even want to speak to this, Lynn, because it's your story to tell. But there was a time where you were working in a client's house.
I have that on my list to tell.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
That just still blows my mind to think about. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. She time traveled.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I time traveled, but something happened at a house that I have been in hundreds of times. And I was walking down the hall and I look up and there's a door that was open. The light was on. And I don't think I saw that it was going up the steps, but I knew that it was like going upward if you like went to that door. And I was like, what the hell is that door doing there? Like, I've been in that house hundreds of times and I did not know there was a door there. And I was like, I can't believe I've been in this house this many times and never noticed a door like right there. And I was like, that was weird. And so I was like, well, I'm kind of weird anyway. And sometimes I don't notice stuff, right away.
We're all raising our glasses over here.
And so I walked into a room and I just kept thinking how weird that was that I'd never noticed that door. And when I came out of that room and looked back down the hall, there was no door there. And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, oh my God. And I walked down there and there wasn't even room for a door to even exist right there. But yet I saw one open with the light on. And so I immediately text everybody here at the Woo Crew.
Yeah. I wonder if something in your brain says like, that's not there. I'm not going to go investigate. And then I wonder what would have happened if you would have gone down there. Like, that's really curious to me.
Yeah, I wish
you had gone to the door, Lynn. You didn't have to go through it. Just go to the door.
You want me to go to the light? Do you, Brenda Sue?
No, not yet.
It's all right because you're a medium. And so
You come back and talk
I just
to
come
me.
back and talk to Brenda. I have asked her before. I was like, Brenda, am I dead because you're a medium? And I need you to tell me because there's some weird shit going on, Brenda. And if I have died, please tell me. And she was like, no, girl, you ain't dead. So
Don't be pulling that sixth sense stuff on me.
So I wish now that I had just walked down the hall and just looked to see what was in there. But I was just like, I just can't believe I've never seen that before.
You were so like, I don't know, freaked out, but you were so like taken aback that
Yeah.
it probably didn't even cross your mind to go look in it because you're still trying to figure out where did it come from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think your brain does that. Like whenever you see something that's out of place that you're not used to seeing, it just tries to make some sort of rational sense and you keep moving forward. Like if you see a shadow out of the corner of your eye or you saw a spirit and you're like, oh, that wasn't really there. But was it? It's like that same kind of thing. I think your mind or your brain is trying to rationalize what's happening and so that you don't go to the doorway.
Yeah, I was just thinking, oh, somebody must have came in or come upstairs and just went in there and I like, well, I don't need to go check on those people. Like,
But
That's real weird.
it is weird.
but our brains are here to protect us. That's
Right.
why so much stuff slips out of them as we get older. Trauma, whatever. When you're ready, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Also,
Next time I'll look.
right. I love when you find your people too, like we have with each other, where you say things like that and it not an eyelashes batted. Like there was an event a month or two ago that Brenda and I were going to together, and it was nighttime. She was driving, and both of us at the same time, I think, saw it. And I think I said, "Oh, what a huge ass bird!" She's like, "But was it a real bird?" Like we both were like, was it? Was it a spirit bird? And so a couple weeks later, my husband and I were driving home from work, and it like down a backcountry road, and it looked like a tumbleweed, like that you would see in like an old Western film or something, like but it was translucent. And it just went right across the road and then like scurried across to the grass. And then you didn't see it anymore. It was like it was gone. And I just kind of looked at him and he was like, "Did you just see that like ghost weed?" And I was like, "That's what it is. It's what it feels like, because it's like you see things and it's like, is that on a different, like a parallel timeline or a different plane or what is that? Like, why are we seeing it?"
That's what I was getting ready to say. I think it was probably off of a different timeline or a different dimension.
Yeah.
And you just saw it because I was driving down the highway one day and I saw I thought it was Amish people in a carriage and they were in the median where the grass and it was a horse and cart. And I was like, oh my God, why are they driving that in the grass? And then it was gone.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, wait.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I just caught a glimpse of a different dimension or something.
Kind of like bleed through, like when you have the Sharpie and you're writing and it's just a little bit bleeds through the next page. I wonder if that happens with dimensions as well.
It would make sense. It makes me think about your like kind of static film story a while back. Do you remember that, Brenda, when you were driving?
Well, Camille was talking about when we get old and we don't remember things anymore. No, I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, but I didn't remember until you just said it.
Really?
Yeah, that was crazy. A friend of mine, back to the story you were telling, Lynn, my friend Michelle, I'm not going to give any last names because she might not want people to know.
Shout out, Michelle.
Yeah. She was driving down the road on her way to work and saw an Indian standing on the side of the road. Full color, everything. And another day she was driving down the road on her way to work because, you get into that zone when you're driving and you're just kind of like blanking out or whatever. She saw a peacock and she said full color. Its colors were so vibrant. And of course, it wasn't there. It wasn't a real peacock.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I see a lot of things through my mind's eye, but a lot of times I don't see them physically anymore like I used to. I wish I'd see shit like that physically because I think that's super fun.
Mm-hmm.
They also say that, and I know we've all done this, you get up, walk in another room to get something, and you're standing in that room not knowing why the hell you're there. A lot of people think because you just shifted timelines and went somewhere else for a little while.
And like came back into your body in that room.
Yes.
Yeah. I like to believe that. It makes me feel better about realizing that I came in there for my keys and not to have cheese and wine.
Right?
I don't know why I'm here, but I guess we'll go with this.
It's a common problem amongst this group.
I think the only time I've really experienced like deja vu, I've had a couple of experiences of having dreams of things and then being in that place or seeing similar things that were in the dream. But there was some years ago, I was with the kids and we were up in Pennsylvania and we were driving out in like the countryside and we were going to, I think like a cave to go walking in, like, with the stalagmites and the stalactites and all that stuff.
As one does, a little sightseeing.
Right. And the kids were young. And I remember driving down this road and I'm like, this is so familiar. Y'all, I'd never been to Pennsylvania. And I saw this barn. I was like, I've been in that barn before. And I could see myself in the barn as a little girl. But I don't know what that was about.
That feels like you were seeing one of your other timelines in a different dimension.
Yeah.
Like a past life.
Yeah. Well, past life,
loosely, but it's all happening at the same time.
your past present life on a different timeline.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Yeah, it does mine too.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine how many dimensions are out there? Because supposedly, in one dimension, you never broke up with that person.
Right.
In another dimension, you chose a different job in a different city.
Yeah.
In another dimension, you did not have that child.
Yeah.
And they're all existing concurrently.
Mm-hmm.
And that blows my mind. I mean, I read in one dimension, the war had a different outcome
Mm-hmm.
for the world as well as us. And that's a trip.
Well, for everything that we do, there's an infinite number of possible outcomes.
Yep.
Right.
So if you think about how many choices you make a day,
Yeah.
like, what am I going to wear? Infinite number of choices. Each one of those has its own timeline.
I love to think about that. I love it. It blows my mind.
It does. It blows my mind too. And it depends on which one you decide to take that day.
That explains why I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think about all the choices that you make in life and have through how many years have you been on the planet,
Right.
and how many possible outcomes there were to, I mean, it's infinity.
Yeah. I hope in a different timeline I made some different decisions.
Well, I'm grateful that in this timeline we all found each other.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you.
too.
I think, I don't know if it was that day or what it was, but when you texted us, Lynn, that you were in that house and saw that door that hadn't been there before. And like, it just sort of, I think, got all of us thinking, like, what about this? Like, what experience have I had that's sort of similar? Or
I'm having a moment right now because I have no recollection of that text.
really?
I have.
See, Chandra was checked out a different timeline. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
but I thought about that and I was like, I think maybe Brenda or Camille, somebody said in the message about that, like, wonder what would have happened if you would have walked through. And I immediately pictured Brenda and Lynn first meeting each other because the four of us kind of like got connected through Brenda, you know, and Lynn, just by happenstance, like listening to the podcast before meeting any of us in person and going up in like this class you guys were in or whatever and saying, Brenda Sue. And I was like, I just pictured Lynn like walking through this door in this house and then like ending up in this class with Brenda and saying, Brenda Sue. And then here we all are, you know, it was just really beautiful. But
You made the right choice.
She did.
We made the right choice to go to that same cacao ceremony together.
Yeah, I think so too.
Amazing. There's this like very silly movie that's kind of related to the same topic. It's called An American Absurdist Comedy. Sounds bougie, but I watched it last year with Christian and it's very good, but it's about this exact topic. It's called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
I love that
Have you seen it?
movie.
I need to watch that.
It's the best. It's the best movie ever.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. It will leave you where you don't sleep for days though, because you can't stop thinking about what just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to check
It's
it out
amazing.
if you haven't watched it in here with us in the studio.
And it was everything,
Everything,
everywhere, all the time.
all at once.
All at
All at
once. And she's literally, I mean, it is the title of the movie. Like that's what the movie is about. It's different. She's living on different timelines.
And Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. She does more than just Activia commercials, y'all. Okay.
Sweet.
But it's an amazing movie. And it like as an example, like I think this, like her family, maybe it follows like a college age girl and like her family owns this like laundromat.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like the stress of like the financial situation where it might be closing or whatever. And then there'll be a scene where they're there with the Jamie Lee Curtis character trying to figure out like how to keep the thing open. And then she'll walk through a door and this whole other timeline's happening or she'll make a choice.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. Just want to throw that out there. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend.
Was it all furiously scribbling, writing down the name?
Was it on Netflix?
We rented it, I think,
Prime.
Apple TV.
Okay.
Yeah, I have rented it on Prime.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's on streaming services. You can watch or rent.
Yeah. Should definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Camille, you got anything to add on this whole timeline hopping thing?
Not at this time.
But
That was anticlimactic.
Well, I feel like I've told 14 stories, but I have one more.
Please do. Tell us.
There we go.
So if y'all have listened to the podcast before, you know about my sweet grandma Ruby. Sweet might be not the right word for her. Force to be reckoned with might be the right word. But Grandma Ruby came to me in meditation at one point, and she took my hand, and I flew up out of my chair. And next thing I knew, we were in Sweden, but we were overlooking this little town that was a long time ago. And make a long story short, I watched this whole scene unfold, and I was like, wow, that was crazy. And so when I came back in my body, I wrote it down. And for the rest of the day, I kept getting synchronicities about what she had showed me. She told me there was the man that I was seeing, his name was Rapal. And that afternoon I went and bought a crystal. Surprise, surprise. And
I thought you were going to say his name was Rapal. I was like, oh my God.
You better wear
no, so exactly. So I bought this crystal, and this girl said, oh, let me just make you a little crystal confetti bag. And I was like, girl, please. So she handed me it's a little bag that had all this little crystal confetti in it. And I was like, why is there a letter, like the little block letter, like maybe you make bracelets out of?
Yeah.
And there was one in there, and it was an R. And I was like, why I get an R? Why I get an R? And Grandma was like, Rapal. And I was like, oh. So anyway, she showed me this whole timeline. And then she said to me, you live so many different times at once. And she was like, there's different things going on. And this is why you love Christmas. And she showed me in the scene that she was showing me, like this man and woman got engaged and they were married Christmas Eve. And she was like, this is why you love Christmas so much. And I was like, oh my God. And then she dropped the bomb and she was like, oh no, that girl, that was you. And I was like, what? Anyway, another story. But she said to me, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the way I interpreted it was, when you come off of this timeline, you can choose to go to any other timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go back to 1956 because that's just a different vibration. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of like that.
I do too. Do I have my civil rights? That's just my question. Is that, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you decide. If you decide you want to go and test that, then you go back to that timeline. And like Chandra was saying, you make different decisions and there's 1,000 different outcomes.
And it's not just a different timeline on Earth.
Right.
You can choose to be a different type of being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everywhere, everything, all at once.
Well, the thing, getting slightly off topic, but not really. My gods continue to blow my mind constantly. But one of the biggest ones was in a spirit circle that we did. I was shown that we talked about this before, I'd been a Sasquatch in a previous life.
Yeah.
Okay. I had wrapped my head around that. That's why I love them so much. Okay. Got it. And then we had experiences with other beings. And I thought, well, while I'm talking to my guys, I'm just going to call them in because it looks like they want to work with us. So I called them in. And I got the message that because I had been one or that I'd lived that life. And I was like, oh, in a past life. And no, you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this is ego because I can't have been everything.
Right.
And they're like, no, you are everything all the time.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. You are everything all at once.
Yeah.
So yes, you have been one of these beings.
Incredible.
Still just like can't fathom that. But so, it's funny how we're all kind of getting the same message from different areas. Yeah.
And then we're afraid to live in this lifetime.
Right.
Whenever we've already done it all and been it all and have the potential to do it all again, different forms. And so why do we hold ourselves back from doing the thing?
Mm-hmm.
I say we just put it all in a dumpster and set it on fire.
All right.
All the fear, all the all of that, the lack.
I'll take what does an Aries say for 500, Bob?
Exactly. And tomorrow's a full moon, so let's Google dumpster rental company.
So based on what Lynn said about, like, I think it was Lynn, you were saying this about different, you could go back to any timeline that you wanted to or skip to any timeline. Do you guys, in a round table kind of way, have something that you would like to be or a place that you would like to go or a time that you would like to visit?
Well,
I know that's a big question.
I'd like to go back to a simpler time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go in a simpler time as well, out in the forest in a little cottage where I had everything that I needed.
Yep.
And I could just live my life
Mm-hmm.
without
As the town
electronics
witch.
as a town witch. Sure.
Yeah. I'm getting like doubly pulled. So like what I want, I feel like, is to live like in a little sea cottage and be like the sea witch. You know, you need your herbs, you need a reading, you need some crystals, not have bills or debt or a master's degree, none of that kind of crazy shit that this timeline has. That's what I want at my core. Because for some reason, as you were speaking, I got like, and I feel there's some past life stuff that's come through before in readings and things like that, where I feel like this was part of one of my past lives or quote unquote different timeline shifts or whatever. But it was during the civil rights movement. And I felt like it was like, I was like protesting and not necessarily a leader, but like helping make change and speaking up for myself and other marginalized people. So I feel like during that, that's stressful, but I feel like that's another one I'm pulled to.
You were probably very effective in that life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is Chandra, and I'm going to be the crazy one, of course. But I want to go to a planet and or dimension where everyone sees the whole picture at one time. I want to be somewhere where we all just know how it works, know how to work together, can see everything for the big picture. And
so back to source.
Maybe.
I love that.
No, thank you. I'm not done here yet.
Yeah, I love that idea though, Chandra.
I know when you asked the question, I got one of my zings, only the future, never the past. But yeah, I love what Chandra said about go to a place where we all are love. We act out of love and the fear is dissipated.
Yeah.
And peace and harmony
isn't so damn hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But would we get bored? That's the question.
I would.
I know you would.
Because I like chaos. I'm sorry. It's Aries.
Down Aries.
She chooses it daily.
Chooses me. I didn't choose
I don't know, girl.
I didn't choose the thug life. The thug life chose me.
That's right. About thug life, she does mean getting home from an event last night at midnight and making us ham and cheese on Hawaiian rolls. Y'all, this woman is sent from the Lord above. You understand?
The best.
Y'all are goofy. But I love you.
We live.
Well, I'm glad that you all joined us on our timeline here and that you are listening to the podcast and connecting with each of us. And we feel connected with each of you at our hearts. And we hope that we are able to facilitate growth within you because we are trying to grow every day together as friends and as people. So it's important to have like people in your corner who are going to push you up the stair ladder of life.
100%.
Maybe goosey on the way too.
Well, that fanny.
And let us know. Sometimes you need a good goosing.
That's right. Let us know what your experiences are. If you've had experiences with timeline hops or parallel universes or deja vu, or if you're working in a client's house and found a random ass door you've never seen before, sound off in the comment section. Leave us a review and share this content with anybody you think it might resonate with. That's why we started this, was to start a community, and we're glad you're a part of ours. We love you guys.
Yeah, let's have a conversation.
Thanks, loves.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.